Do we get started? Do we play on this?
Yeah, it's already started. This is all gonna get cut. Started up. You guys ready?
Intro, bro. We're recording. Go ahead. I don't know how this goes.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of Burning Rubber. I have Laurence Dubois here and Justin Rodriguez. Golden Talk. You know, we're excited to have our first special guest here. Laurence, who you know in the community, is I call him Concrete Larry because he's solid. You know, the guy is very objective when it comes to reffing. I have a couple of burning questions for him. Justin's here to kind of referee the discussion. So we'll get started. Well, actually, you can introduce yourself and let people know who have no idea what handball is, and just tell them what you do and what you do in the community.
My name is Laurence Dubois. Everybody knows me as Larry, and I pretty much play the part of rules and conduct in the handball community. And I try to make sure that, every event that I'm a part of goes over smoothly and keeps the integrity of the tournament intact.
So,
and he's an A player.
There you go. Okay, we can talk about that. There's one because I was looking online. I was like, wait, is there any footage of Larry out there?
There's clips.
And I was like, yo, is that Larry with the ponytail? Like,
I need you to look at. That's the truth right there.
There's clips. There's clips.
I was like, is he rocking? Is that him on Westport?
I used to play, man.
Going in? Oh,
you was in like a citywide or something, right? You were playing Shaheem. That's the clip that's out there. There's a clip out there of you playing singles. It was either Shaheem Gio or Black Justin. One of those, because
I don't think so.
And it's
I had to Google myself.
Long ago. I don't even know who put it out, but it was in like a citywide. It was a junior tournament of some sort.
It could have been a junior tournament. I never missed a junior tournament when I was younger.
Yeah,
I wanted to play in everyone I could.
And Shaheem's around your time frame, right?
Shaheem was way not in my time frame. No? Peter Kinney was a person I played in the juniors with. Kenny from Elmhurst, he was a person he used to spring me every single time. But it was always great games. He's a cool dude, and it wasn't something like how you have a rivalry with somebody like I hate his guts. It was never like that. It's always love. So that's the person who was from my era when I was a little kid. And then the people who I ended up teaming up with were years younger than me. I played with Gio. I won tournaments with Gio. I'm like 7 years older than him, I think. I'm not sure, but whatever you're talking about, I'd like to see it.
It's there.
I haven't seen much footage of myself playing.
I'm gonna look at it.
Like, everything about handball is so melted into each other. Really, I can't really tell when a generation ends because they're still around. You and Gio playing, I don't know what generation you guys would be considered yourselves. Is that after rookie or what?
You're mentioning what you're talking about is almost like 4 generations because you have rookie's generation, which is just now already starting to step down because it wasn't too long ago that he won the King of the Courts.
Yeah, wow.
And then you have my generation, which would have been probably me. I think Pee Wee was a couple of years older than me, maybe 2 or 3 years older than me. And then the younger guys were Gio, Paulie. There's a lot. Not Little Carlos. Little Carlos would be the 4th generation.
Little Carlos' brother, maybe?
Yeah, Lil Carlos' brother. I played against him in the B singles. We went at it. Lil Carlos, Kid Justin, Timbo. Those guys are the babies.
Yeah.
And if you think about it right now, they're the strongest games in the game. Strongest guys in the game. So, that's like 4 generations.
Yeah. I think for you, you're questioning what happened when Larry was coming up, rookie was at his peak.
Oh, okay.
So it was different generations, but the same time frame.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So right now our generations are blended a lot more. Back then it was segregated, specifically segregated. You are the top A's, and you are the juniors coming up. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like back then their level of play was higher. It was just a lot more separate.
Okay.
Well, I think it also has to do with the system that we're going by right now.
True.
With the A cards and the way that we've been graduating people, whether people believe they're A players or not, it definitely plays a huge part in who plays against who. There were A players and then there was rookie.
Yeah.
At that time, you didn't have little kids playing against rookie. You didn't have that. Lil Carlos wouldn't have been able to, no disrespect to Lil Carlos, but he wouldn't have been in rookie's category. He wouldn't have been able to play rookie. Rookie wouldn't have even played him left to 2 at that time because he was a little kid.
Right.
But
there was a kind of air of respect that you think
not only respect but fear.
Okay.
I've heard stories because this is before my time. I've heard stories of Buddy being in a tournament and people knowing that he was in the tournament asking for their money back. So that's the type of mentality that we had, that there was back then.
Yeah.
So imagine if it was like that now. Imagine if there was no A cards. The A card was me knowing that you that guy. Oh, you know what? I'm not playing against Justin. I heard he's the man. I don't want to play. So the C players wouldn't play. You know, so that's how it pretty much, it was word of mouth. People knew who the person was.
So there were just a lot less elite players just because of fear, you think?
Yes and no. You know, when you say elite, you got to understand. I'm not sure if everybody understands that rookie was elite. You know what I'm saying? Back then, you didn't have there were no A players and B players. It was just he was that guy. But then that's why I say yes or no, because rookie's a hustler. So you have people that want to test themselves, and rookies trying to hustle. So you know what? He's going to dumb himself down to get those games in. And he has made a lot of A players in that process. Him hustling has created A players. People who wanted to get better that played against him, and whether they realized it or not, they were learning. They were in school. They didn't know it. They paid their tuition by playing those money games, but they got better. Yeah, and that's what it was, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Last week we just had the big hitters, I think it was. Heavy hitters. And you said that tournament went well. Like, what do you think was good about that, and what, you know, some people were complaining about players getting there on time. Like, what do you feel about that?
All right, so this is going to be a long answer, because I have to explain the reason why I feel like a perfect person for you to ask this question. In the past, I was not against, but I played a big part in changing the way Big Blue handball rules were interpreted to the community. Because I felt like at the time, I don't feel this way now, but I felt like at the time, the USHA rules only focused on small ball players. Like, it was only for them. Like, that's how I felt. And growing up,
sorry to interrupt, but do they have, does USHA have a Big Blue handbook? Like, who sets the rules?
I'm going to touch on that. To answer that question real quick, no, they don't, because black ball and handball are the exact same sport. Okay. So there should never be a separate rule. And I didn't think that way before. And one particular rule was the players calling their own blocks.
That's huge.
It is huge.
Because that changes the whole rule book.
Yes.
With that whole, you can't appeal a block.
Yep. So I was in a position where, you know, I was reffing the Nationals, and the person, without naming any names, that was in charge of the Nationals, I asked him, was he going to enforce a rule that I read from his rule book that he had given to me like a week before. I already know the rules because I had to rewrite them and go over them so many different times with different organizations. I know what I'm talking about. Plus my experience, I've been playing since I was 14 years old. You know, so I'm bringing it to his attention, and he's telling me that we don't do it that way. The play was a skip ball. I said, how are you playing the skip ball? And he said, you know, you can only call skip ball on the serve. And I said, no, that's not true. You can call skip ball anytime. It's played as a hinder. And he went to, you know, disagree, man. I said, I mean, no disrespect, but you're wrong. This is in the rules, in your rules. This is in your USHA handbook rules that you gave me.
Just to pause it, can you explain to people what a skip ball is and what is the reason why you would say that it's a hindrance throughout the game?
A skip ball is when a ball is wet and it takes a different bounce than it would if it was dry. It doesn't take a true bounce. It skips. So skip, skid, it's the same difference.
And that's because it only happens when the ball is wet. Like that.
That's not true. It doesn't only happen when the ball is wet. No, that's not a skip though. That's a hook. It could skid on sand. When the ball is bone dry and it hits sand, that's what.
It hit like gravel or some kind of
a hinder or anything like that. So the reason why it's a hinder is because it changes the outcome of the way the ball would win. It's
from an outside source. It's not because the court was clean. There was an obstruction that changed the direction
that you put on the ball. You actually you created it. So if you think about it, and this is what I can say, credit to USHA, is that they have covered every base. He should have known this because the rules, and we spoke about this. The USHA rules cover every rule. So there's an answer for every scenario, and I mean,
there really is.
Yeah,
they cover
and when we had a clinic, they challenged us. Put $100 bill on the table. You just tell me one rule we don't have covered. So he should have known. You know, that right there is inconsistent with what you already are promoting. You know, so the reason why it's a hinder is because it creates an advantage for whoever's the one that's sweating the ball, whoever's the one that's actually receiving, because it throws you off. It throws me off in my head, you know. So The reason why it should be played like that is because it keeps the integrity of the game going.
Right.
You know, and the way to avoid it is to put on gloves.
Right.
Now, there's a position that a lot of promoters and even referees are in where we're just not there yet. So sometimes we're in a position where, you know, everybody doesn't have gloves, even though it clearly states in the rules that you have to show up prepared to play. We're not there yet. We don't have the leverage to enforce that, even though we actually do, you know, because once you pay us, I have the leverage.
Right.
So if you show up unprepared, disqualified. You could do that.
So yeah, I kind of want to go into that just a little bit because there's so much about that I think elevates the sport. Would it be better for the refs to have, because in basketball, I mean, the guy can call a foul, he can call whatever, but until the ref calls it, I mean, nothing happens. Like, should there be more control given to the organization, the ref, who are organizing these events? I mean, the players are there to play, and the ref and the host are there to keep the integrity of the game,
So
like you said.
that's it. You want to touch on that? I had the answer.
Well, here's my opinion.
Yeah.
When it comes to referees calling the block for the players, for me as a referee, it gets tricky because there are some situations, and it happens a lot more than you think, where a player is hindering your shot, but you want them exactly where they are. So as a referee, I'm like, okay, well, this is a hinder. Let me call a block.
Right.
You as the player, you're like, I got him where I wanted. Don't call this block.
Right.
So that's just my opinion, especially in big ball, because we play a lot of boxing out.
Right.
You know, we play like I can step around you,
Right.
and now you're behind me, and I'm gonna hit it in front of me, and this is exactly where I want you to be.
Yeah.
But before I step around, if you're in front and you kind of move a little, as a referee, I could call the block for you. But you as a player, you don't want that.
Right.
So
isn't
it's
that
tricky. It's a double-edged sword because the rules are perfected when the referee calls the blocks.
Right. Right.
But
what you're saying is that the problem is that either player can take advantage of that call. So like the player who doesn't want the call to block because he wants the person to kind of get in his way, that's technically it going in his favor. You understand? Like that's why it's probably best to have the ref call it, because then you're kind of taking advantage of what should be a hindrance for him and you.
So his scenario that he just spoke about, that was one of the main reasons why I did think it was a good idea for the players to be able to call their blocks. But now later that I'm a little bit more experienced and I've been reffing and I know the game so much better. To keep the integrity of the game intact, you have to let the refs call the blocks. That's the best way to do it. And USHA said it way before I even came along. It's just that I came along and with that chip that I had on my shoulder, I felt like, you know what, these guys don't really care about us. You know, why should we do things the way they say? They're not, who says that they're the bosses? We play big blue. We've been playing big blue all this time. They only adhere to small ball. So why should we do things the way they say they want to do it? So that's where I was coming from. But now looking back at it, even scenarios like that, and there are plenty of players that like to play like that. So the play where you say, the guy has to move out of the way, and you want to. So if he moves to the right, and you have the left corner, you have the perfect shot now. That's what you want. That's an option that you wouldn't have if you're playing organized handball, because the referee is going to have to call that block.
Right.
Now the play that you're talking about, when you block them out, there's an absolute clean way to do that with no contact. Handball is 100% non-contact sport. So any of those plays, because I've done those, you know, especially if you really know how to play the game, you learn different ways of getting points without hitting killers. A lot of these kids think that's the only way you can score. I hook the ball, I throw all types of stuff at you, and I was going. So I had to make this adjustment within myself because I used to do it the dirty way. I'm a big dude. If I play against a little dude, guess what? Figure it out, dogs. You can't get to it. But I was playing with a veteran, and I asked him when the guy made a call. He's like, "Yo, man, you can't do that, man. You pushed me out the way." And I did push him out the way, but I was under the false impression that it was okay for me to do that because it was my shot, which a lot of people think is okay. It's not. You just gotta go back down to ground zero. It's non-contact. So you could do that shot, but just don't touch him. He's right there. Step in front of him and hit the ball right there. He has to figure out how to get around you. Because just like there's no contact when you're going for your shot, he can't be any contact when he's going for his shot. And an experienced referee would see that. And that's the responsibility for the referee. And that's the challenge that we're left with when you come with introducing the original, most best way of the game to be played by having the ref call the calls for you. And the challenge is having refs who are going to take the game seriously, who are going to ref the game, you know, and take it seriously. You know what I'm saying? Pay attention and know what to look for and know what to see. You know, and that's not easy. It's very not easy. We have A players.